So if you look at this structural steel fabrication industry, it plays a central role in construction of buildings, bridges, industrial infra. We find that in this industry, most of the projects that are executed by these players are delayed. So a typical project in this industry, you would find the margins are very thin. When I say very thin, it ranges from 2 to 5% or max 10%. In this industry, that proxy is measuring everything or managing everything on tonnage. You would find that in this paradigm of entire industry operating on tonnage,
they'll all subordinate to tonnage as a measure, right?
so eventually there is an interesting conflict in the paradigm that people have to either maximize tonnage, at the same time they also have to manage the project deadlines. So actually what we need to do is shift our entire focus.
Hello and welcome to the Counterpoint podcast, a podcast where we discuss how we solve chronic business problems for our clients that help make their businesses better. I'm Shubham Agarwal. Today, we're focusing on the structural steel fabrication industry in India, an industry which is critical to India's infrastructure growth. Yet, it is marred by low profitability and a lot of operational chaos. To unpack this paradox, we're joined by Kaustubh from Vector Consulting Group, who's done this for a lot of clients in this space. Let's welcome him and talk to him more about this. Hi Kaustubh, welcome to the Counterpoint podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So Kaustubh, like I said, I want to start by talking about the structural steel fabrication industry. And I want to start by asking you what makes this industry so unique and why is it so important in the Indian context?
Okay, so if you look at this structural steel fabrication industry, it plays a central role in construction of buildings, bridges, industrial infra, and considering the recent growth in urbanization and industrialization, as well as government's impetus to a growing vision in next few years, as well as a lot of capex in government as well as public spaces, you would find that this industry is booming and is expected to grow even further in the coming years. If you look at past few years, this has been growing at 8 to 9% per annum, as well as there is a lot of growth opportunities that are coming up in both public as well as private spaces.
Right, and I think 8 to 9% is quite a considerable growth, to see in the country. Does that mean that all the companies in this space, in this industry, are also growing and booming in the same speed, with the same speed?
Right, that is a paradox, right? So what we find here, if you take a snapshot of this industry today, you would find that more than 90% of these players are small scale players. When I say small scale, their revenue ranges anywhere less than 500 CR.
Okay.
But that is not only about today. If you look at past 5 years or 10 years, this mix has always remained same. Now, you would wonder why this is happening, or why, when we are talking about a growing industry in an emerging market like India, why are there so many players who have not grown beyond a certain range, right? So we need to deep dive one layer deeper. We find that in this industry, most of the projects that are executed by these players are delayed. Now, if you understand...
we see that every day in, day out. Projects all around us.
You would see
especially
in
the
your
government
public
projects.
life as well, guys. Projects are not getting completed and
people not getting their homes on time. Correct.
Right. So delays are there, but how is it affecting any player? So we'd like to understand that in any given project, how the payment cycle happens. So in this industry, payments are mostly linked to milestones, various milestones in the completion of the project, ranging from fabrication of the
Can you take an example? Let's say there's a bridge being constructed.
So let's take an example of a bridge.
Yeah.
So for a bridge, you need to understand that first that bridge sections are getting fabricated somewhere.
Right.
Then these sections are delivered to a site, and on site they are getting assembled and erected at the required location.
And by that time, they would have to do the foundation and all of those things.
Correct. Those things are parallelly happening.
Right.
Now, if a player in this fabrication industry, their payment would be linked first to dispatches of these sections on site, secondly to these material arriving on site, and third to the erection. So these are the three major milestones to which the payment and cash flows are linked.
Got it.
Now, imagine a project which is delayed. So obviously, these milestones get delayed, and hence the cash flow which comes back to the player, it gets further delayed. Now, when I'm a small scale player, you would appreciate that, I have a limited working capital. I have limited funds to operate with. So as I have multiple projects with me which are getting delayed, my fund is getting locked in those projects.
Correct. My working capital is
Working
blocked.
capital is blocked.
Yeah.
Now it will get released only when I complete a particular milestone. That milestone is either I complete my fabrication or I complete my site erection and so on. So as we would understand that because of these delays, my growth into further number of projects is getting curtailed. If I am operating with few number of projects and all those projects are delayed with me, I am not able to take one more project and execute it because my working capital is limited.
Yeah, so my growth gets limited by that logic.
My growth gets limited. Now, if I have to grow further beyond a certain range, I need either extra capital, which is very difficult to get in recent times, or other ways is to see a way how I can deliver my projects at a faster pace and release this capital so that it can be used at a faster churn.
So what sort of margins are we talking about, Kaustubh, here for these sort of players? And I'm talking about, let's say, not a very small player or a very large player, but on average.
So a typical project in this industry, you would find the margins are very thin. When I say very thin, it ranges from 2 to 5% or max 10%. Right? Okay. Now, if you are operating at this margin, obviously all your factors of cost and revenue, and on the cost side, we need to take care of things like our fixed cost, the plant cost, the productivity. All these things needs to get considered while we are working with this thinner range of margins.
And I'll like to come back to the cost part and the revenue part. But before that, where is it that this pressure of margin is coming from? As in you're saying 2, 5, 10%, that's very thin.
Yeah.
Where is the pressure for margin that is coming from?
Right. So if you have to understand margin, there are two sides of it, right? One is the cost side, one is the revenue side. Like we said, in this industry, as the player grows, they put up a lot of fixed costs in terms of their plants. They have manpower on their payroll or working in those plants, and they need to recover this fixed cost. Now, therefore, there is a need to at least execute certain amount of load to break even to recover this cost. On the revenue side, you would understand this is the raw material in this industry is majorly steel. And steel is a kind of a commodity where market prices are market driven. Steel is a kind of commodity where prices are market driven. And in this industry, one major difference is that there is hardly any entry barrier. And there are no differentiators.
Oh, okay.
Right. So any new player can enter this market and start taking orders at very low margins. And just to survive, they can just kill others by taking dirt cheap margin orders and keep on putting the rest of the industry under pressure.
Oh, it's like a game theory where everyone is trying to get into it, and there is no edge or no
moat. There is no moat.
There's no moat point from one to another.
Yeah.
And so they are going for lesser margins just to take business.
Correct.
Right.
So you will find that most of these players, like we said, one is they are small scale players, and most of them are actually not thriving. They are just surviving.
Okay, so I think you spoke about manpower utilization and how the resources are being utilized. There are a lot of costs involved. So is productivity a challenge in this industry, if I may ask?
Right. So if you have to look at productivity specific to this industry, there are two aspects that are majorly getting affected. One aspect is the complexity part, right? So complexity, if you look at every steel structure, is not on the same levels of complexity. So you would find few structures which are simple and have repetitive number of parts which can be replicated easily. And few structures are complex, which are majorly used in kind of defense or oil and gas kind of areas where the complexity keeps on increasing.
Right.
But these details, if you are not aware while you are taking the orders, and we said that orders are taken on very thin margins, then a complex project, if you are taken, we need to understand how the complexity affects your margins, right? So a complex project affects my time of execution.
Okay.
Right.
So what I had anticipated, it will probably surpass that.
It will surpass that. Now, as the time expands, my cost that I had assumed in terms of manpower deployment, in terms of my productivity, in terms of all other asset allocation on that project, that also keeps on expanding. And hence, I keep on losing out on my margins. That is one side. Another side of productivity in this industry is related to availability of skilled manpower. So the major manpower that is required is welders and fitters. But here, one unique observation is that these manpower are very mobile across the industry, and they can switch across various players just for a marginal increment in their revenue. So it is
Right.
very difficult to retain any skilled manpower with you, and ensure that your productivity levels, which you had assumed while taking an order, will still be existing while you're executing it.
Right. I agree that the manpower, the skilled manpower, there's no exit barrier. I mean,
Yeah.
they would probably go in for, and these are people who are earning anyways pretty low, I guess, in the industry, right?
Yeah. When we are looking at recovery of this fixed cost, we need to understand that while taking an order, we have assumed certain utilization of resources, allocation of manpower, certain levels of productivity, and all these things in actual execution. If you are missing out on the assumptions, then your margins can be lost. In many cases, your margins can even be wiped out.
Okay. Right. So I think Kaustubh, it clearly explains how multiple factors are affecting the margins, and how productivity is also linked to the margin in that sense. So the question is, how are the companies managing in the industry then in that case?
Right. So when you're managing a business and there are so many variables to be looked after, what industry people have done, they have found a very simplest way of managing so many variables with a proxy.
Okay.
In this industry, that proxy is measuring everything or managing everything on tonnage.
Okay.
Right? When we are talking about tonnage, if you have to compare two different projects, you would try to find out what is the revenue per ton that I am trying to get. So the
Okay.
term that is used in the industry is rupees per kg or rupees per ton.
Okay.
Right. So if I'm comparing two projects, and a project which gives me higher level of rupees per kg or rupees per ton, that is considered as a viable project for me. But one thing that is missing is that while taking this kind of projects, I'm not considering the factors that we talked about, like complexity of the project, novelty of that project in my organization. All these are not looked at. So now you think in this industry, if you are a salesperson
Yeah.
and you are asked to book an order,
I was about to ask that. Yeah.
so what you would do is you would go in the market, try to seek a order which has maximum rupees per kg, and you would book that order. Ideally, when it hits the execution, you would realize all these factors of complexity and other issues in execution, and that is where your margin starts getting affected, right? So eventually, you would find that in this paradigm of entire industry operating on tonnage, different departments display a very interesting behavior.
Yeah.
Right?
They'll all subordinate to tonnage as a measure, right?
Correct.
Because they're all measured.
They are looked after in terms of tonnage. Their performance is looked in terms of tonnage. So like we took an example of a sales guy. Similarly, you look at how the production would behave. Now you imagine any bridge.
Yeah.
You would see that it has bigger parts which looks like heavier tons, and there are small parts which are connecting members, right? Now as a production guy, if you are being asked to maximize your output in terms of tonnage, what you would naturally do is try to execute all the heavier parts,
Deliver them first.
but the smaller parts are not getting worked upon. Now you need to understand that the original objective of this business was executing a project, right? When you're talking about a project, it means there is a fixed deliverable at the end of a particular time. But when you're looking at only tonnage as an aspect, this other side is getting missed, which is the project timeline. Right? So eventually there is an interesting conflict in the paradigm that people have to either maximize tonnage, at the same time they also have to manage the project deadlines. Now imagine that a bridge.
And these are multiple projects at the same time,
These are
I'm assuming.
multiple projects.
Right.
This is a multi-project environment.
Right.
So you imagine that in a bridge, as a production guy, I have delivered only the heavier sections. What would happen from the side is that when I would start the erection, I would find that the connecting members are missing.
I don't have the full kit.
I don't have the kit. I don't have the entire available
yeah.
kit in sequence. So my erection stops. Now, because of this, one, there is a back pressure on the plant for these missing items. So the plans or the regular schedules of the plants starts getting disturbed, because plant is not able to work on their regular plans, and in turn they have to stop their setups and batches at multiple times to take care of the smaller parts requirements which are coming from site. On the other side, if you look at the site, there are contractors who are deployed there, and time and again their work is getting interrupted due to absence of this material. So eventually you would find that in many of these sites, we have worked across India with multiple players. One common problem that they all are facing is that contractors never keeps the required manpower on site. They keep on demobilizing the people, because what actually happens is their cash flows are also related to the execution of the project. If they find that your project is not having the required sequence, then their work gets hampered, their cash flows are hampered, and eventually you are putting them in trouble.
Right.
So what they would do is they would remove their manpower and send them somewhere else. Right? Now, in this entire behavior, you would see that we had started with a thought of maximizing our tonnage. But what actually happens is these regular interruptions, which keeps on flowing back from the site, actually causes us to take multiple setups on the shop floor.
Right. So there is pressure on the production guy again.
It increases, and at the same time, my utilization on the shop floor also starts going down time and again. At the same time, because I'm not completing my project on time, my customer is not happy, my deadlines are missed, and the problem that we started with, that my cash flow is getting hampered, and my working capital is stuck in various phases. It is stuck as inventory on my shop floor, it is stuck as finished good on my site, and it is also stuck in various stages of this entire life cycle. Right. So
I'm assuming that the production guy not making those smaller pieces or parts is also because the planning guy is also subordinating to tonnage as a measure, right?
Absolutely. So when we are saying as a measure, we need to understand it is not only a measure, right?
Yeah. In fact, I was about to ask that. Is it all happening because tonnage, because we say, right, that you get what you measure. So because you're measuring people by tonnage, and that's why it is happening. Is that the case?
That's a good question, right? So what we see here is this is not only about a measurement problem.
Okay.
This itself has become a paradigm. I will tell you how these are different.
Yeah.
So you take an example of an engineering department.
Okay.
Right? In engineering department, normally the team would be measured on how many drawings you are roughly releasing per unit time, let's say in a month. Let's say an engineering team is required to release 100 drawings in a month. So you would find in this industry, engineering is releasing 100 out of 100 drawings every month. So the output is very good.
Okay.
But when you are actually checking what kind of drawings are getting released, these are actually those higher tonnage sections which are required by production to meet their tonnage demand, and hence the drawings of smaller sections are also not being worked upon, and those are getting left behind. So here you can see that the measure of engineering is number of drawings released. It is not tonnage, but they are subordinating to this overall paradigm of maximizing the tonnage across the entire life cycle of this organization.
That very clearly explains the paradigm and not the measure.
Right.
Because he is releasing all the drawings that he's been asked to.
Correct.
But somewhere down the line, somewhere back of the mind, he's still subordinating to tonnage as a paradigm.
Either he's subordinating or the kind of priorities that are being given are in these orders to maximize your tonnage output and not look at project completion.
But it's hard to sort of question the entire industry and say that no one looked through this, that it is this particular paradigm which is creating a trouble.
Right.
So my question then is that how did tonnage become the paradigm in the first place?
Right. So if you look at any industry for that matter, one thing is that to make your business profitable, you would try to understand if my system as an organization, is it working in line so that whatever I give as an output today, it would lead to profit at the end of a certain unit of time, right? Now, people have different measurements for different departments, different areas of functions, and it becomes very difficult to actually find out if that is actually giving me profit at the end of a certain period. I will give an example.
Yeah.
For example, on shop floor, if you have to measure if my machine is contributing to my profit maximization, I can just check if my machine is running 24 hours a day.
Correct.
And if yes, what parts are getting manufactured on that machine,
and what was
the revenue outcome from that machine, and hence what was the contribution to profit. It becomes very simple. But in departments like engineering and in supply chain, where it is human based and people are not working 24 hours, how do you relate their output directly to my profit or revenue maximization? So what people do, or many players in different industries do, they try to find a proxy for what can be a good way of determining whether a particular function is contributing to my profit maximization, and I should get that information well ahead of time. So in this industry, tonnage is a kind of a proxy where people say in sales, if you have booked orders to maximize tonnage, or in production you have produced maximum tonnage every month, then you are on the right track to give me profit at the end of the financial year.
So it becomes a paradigm.
It becomes a paradigm, and hence the behavior of the entire organization is driven by that paradigm.
Right. It was an easier thing to take upon as a paradigm. Is that the case? Because my next question is then, if not tonnages, then what? Because I'm hoping that is the direction that we are going towards.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you understood till now, we have said that there is a conflict in any organization because it is a project business. There is a need of maximizing tonnage because I need to show my utilizations very high, because there are fixed costs associated with those on the project. Another side of the conflict is project completion in the given deadline.
Right.
So we have seen what has gone wrong because of only working on one side of the conflict. So actually what we need to do is shift our entire focus on project completion, and tonnages would naturally become an outcome of the system if the entire focus shifts to project completion on time and ensuring that the maximization of project completion from the given system is looked into. So rather than measuring your organization on how much tonnages have been produced, they should actually look at how many projects have been completed per unit time or per year. That would give you the true capacity of that organization. And when you are looking at capacity of an organization, it would also reveal what are the constraints or the bottleneck in your entire system which are slowing down these projects, and hence your entire focus now shifts to how do I maximize my capacity to subordinate to this need of project completion on time. And when multiple projects are getting completed on time, you look at the way it would release your cash flows faster. Your working capital can be released to take up more projects in same amount of time. At the same time, you would also realize that with limited funds and same set of resources, if more projects are getting closed in a span of, let's say, 1 year or a same unit of time, then you would be
better off.
You would have better return on ROC,
Definitely,
better ROC, right?
Yeah.
In that case.
So it's actually it's a paradigm shift again for the entire company, because I'm sure they are measuring the number of projects completed at the end of it. But like we said, in a department like an engineering department or a drawings or a production department, I might not be looking at the completion of a project. Correct. And so I have to look at that again as a measure or a paradigm throughout the organization.
Correct.
Right. But that's a big shift, isn't it?
Absolutely. So when you are looking, even now, when we say that there is a conflict, right? Time and again, the project managers or management is getting pulled back into checking the project completion because there are pressures from customer.
Yeah.
But when they check, they actually find that, okay, my project is already delayed and the time is lost to do any recovery actions. So eventually what happens is, whatever corrections you could have done, if you had the information well ahead in time, that time is getting lost because in that time you are actually focusing only on tonnage maximization. So if you look at the entire output of this kind of a player in this industry, you will find that in a given year, there are a couple of months where the output has dropped. And if you check what was happening in those months, you would actually see
they
that
were reworking because of
absolutely. So management
projects.
has said you stop everything else and you actually complete these projects so that we ensure the closure and the cash flow cycle happens. At the same time, we are supporting site execution. So in those months, you would find that the output of my production has actually gone down.
Okay.
And those are indicators that management time and again is getting pulled in a project completion phase, but it is too late by then.
Right.
But in the new paradigm that we are talking about, since the entire organization is only looking at project completion, right from getting an order into the system at the sales stage till it is erected on site, everybody actually looks at the same parameter and everybody is talking the same language. So you can see that when different departments are thinking only about project completion. So sales guy, let's say, or marketing guy, when he is booking an order, he would be aware that if this order enters my system, will it slow down my project because of its complexity? then if yes, then should I go ahead and book this order? This question would naturally arise, and that would lead to some discussion within the organization. Similarly, if you look at the production team, they are supposed to work on every project, start to finish, to complete it in one go. Nothing should be left behind because there is no other measurement now. Your measurement is closing the project as soon as possible or as fast as possible.
Right.
Therefore, their only focus shifts on project closure and in order of sequence, so that nothing is left behind and I can move on to the next project.
So there are no delays at the erection site or any other stage upfront as well.
But here there is one challenge, right?
Yeah.
If you look at these kind of projects, you would see that the timelines of this project ranges from few months to a year or even more than a year.
Yeah.
Right? Now, on a month-over-month basis, if I have to determine if my organization is doing well, is it on the right track? Like we said, earlier proxy was tonnage.
Yeah, now I'm looking at project completion.
Correct. So now I need some signals whether I'm on right track.
Yeah, in a shorter span of time.
In a shorter span of time. So therefore, what we normally do is that break these bigger projects in
smaller chunks of
which
sense.
In this industry we call them as blocks or phases.
Okay.
And we monitor the progress of those phases. So here, those blocks or phases actually become a proxy for your project completion, and hence the proxy for your organization's output that you would expect at the end of the period.
Right. I mean, that'll be quite an advantage, isn't it, for an organization to have that I'm able to deliver the projects on time every time.
Absolutely. So you can see that if you become one of these kind of players, you can actually create a decisive competitive edge in the market. Because there is hardly anyone who is doing this right now. So if you look at all the players, no one is talking about delivering the project on time, in full, and in the order of site execution sequence to the clients. So any client who would realize that you are the one who is doing this, it would become a point of everyone would take notice of you.
Right.
And hence it can become a competitive edge for you.
Right. That's something to achieve. So I want to come back to one of the things that you had mentioned before about the complexity of projects, because that also increases the time override, right? And you said that, probably I should have looked at taking smaller or simpler projects. But now that I have this power, can I still look at those intricate or complex projects?
So we need to understand that complexity doesn't go away, right? It is always there. But when you're aware about the complexity, you can plan better. So if there is a complex project within all your set of projects, you can then decide what should be the sequence of activities. Should I add additional buffer to take care of unknowns in this project? And at the same time, we can take care of entire sequencing in such a way that the capacity of my system is not going down or it is not eaten away by this single complex project. So what we actually...
so I know what is going to come ahead.
What is going to come ahead is known well ahead of time rather than getting blindsided midway in the execution and then thinking of a solution.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Can you share some examples where we implemented this paradigm shift approach and it has borne some results as well? I know that you've done this across a lot of organizations.
Yeah. So without naming any organization,
definitely.
What we have observed across the projects that we implemented, that there has been significant improvement in the results that we have seen. Right. One is the output has increased to a certain extent. It has even doubled without any increase of resources. Right. Their manpower has remained same. Their assets have remained same, but output has doubled. Now this is because my entire project completion has happened on time, and like we said earlier, project completion has my direct positive impact on the cash flows. So in these companies, we have observed that the cash flows have improved, working capitals have improved, the inventories in terms of inventory on shop floor, inventory on site completion, everything has come down. So inventory turns have improved, and at an overall level, it has become a financially viable organization to grow to the next level. But one important benefit, which is an intangible benefit, is that the bandwidth of the management gets freed. right? So management in the existing paradigm of tonnage,
Yeah, it's all chaotic.
right, they get pulled into project completions and client escalations.
Correct.
So when you yourself are talking about project completion, there are hardly any escalations from site or clients, and therefore your bandwidth gets released to actually help you, think strategically for your organization rather than spending your time in day-to-day troubleshooting.
So Kaustubh, I think very interesting, and how we've seen results and how it has helped the whole industry. One question, the fact that I changed the paradigm from tonnages to a project completion paradigm, I'm sure similar proxies must be taken by other industries as well.
Yeah.
So a similar approach where I change the paradigm to a project completion, again a proxy to that, can this be applied to other industries as well? Is that something that is possible?
Absolutely, yes. So we have not only implemented this in this steel fabrication industry, we have done in wide varieties of industries, ranging from heavy engineering, oil and gas, similarly EPC, engineering, procurement, construction,
Okay.
and also software and pharma.
Oh, okay.
So one typical thing that you would observe across any industry is that, as a small scale player who tries to grow in that industry, the capital
Working capital
is the prime necessity of that industry or organization to grow.
Correct.
Right? So when you are a small player, you are limited by the funds that are available to you, and you can only work in that available zone. As you grow, you would like to expand your portfolio or the product portfolio on a certain range with same level of capital. Now that also puts your organization in some unstable equilibrium, right? So as you grow, if there are a lot of challenges like we discussed in this industry about margins and productivity and
Overruns
complexities,
and all of that,
this stability of organization can become a risk factor, and you would find that eventually the player who had a wish to grow beyond a certain limit is actually dragged down again. They are forced to go back to their original levels and start again, and this cycle keeps on repeating. So you will find that in any industry there are many small scale players who actually stop their business and close their business and move out. Many new players enter, and this keeps on happening because people actually don't understand how to manage their work with limited working capital, and that actually limits their growth in the future. And hence you would find that many small scale players actually don't grow beyond a certain levels.
Right. But then once the inventory turns, or the the working capital pressure reduces, I'm sure they can grow much faster.
Absolutely. So this paradigm of flow-based thinking, what we find is that the entire shift in the thought process to maximize the output of that organization. Let's say that output can be in terms of software releases per year, or pharmaceutical output per year, or in terms of engineering, procurement, construction. It can be number of projects closed per year. Whatever is the output, once you find increase in the churn of your output with the same resources, same working capital, then it opens up a new avenue for your growth, where your revenue would increase because your churns are increasing.
Right.
Your profitability will increase because your fixed costs are not increasing.
Correct.
And at the
My
same
churns
time
are increasing.
churns are increasing. And with limited working capital, you can then plan the growth of your organization in a very sustainable way. So I would say this flow-based thinking approach sets up a sustainable and competitive stage for any organization to grow.
Wonderful. I think that's a great place to wrap up, because the whole idea of a flow management principle being applied to any industry is like a win-win for everyone, and for specifically the fabrication, the structural steel fabrication industry.
Correct.
It's a clear win for the agencies, for the contractors, for the fabricators, for anyone in the entire value
And
chain.
public as a whole.
And public as a whole. Thanks. I mean, we were talking about this just before this. The situation that is there. I mean, it's a win-win for everyone in the country, I guess, and that really fuels the growth as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Kaustubh, for this enlightening discussion.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's going to really be interesting for our listeners as well. Thank you once again to all the listeners. If you found something really useful or helpful on this discussion, please subscribe to Counterpoint, and we'll keep coming back with such interesting episodes. This is Shubham, and this is Counterpoint signing off. Bye-bye.